Hello everyone and welcome to a new sneak peek video. Woohoo! In this video I will be talking to you more about the Reforged update, or to be more specific, sets. Now again, I want to start with two disclaimers that I'm just quite frankly going to insert in every video that I make regarding Ultra Test. One, the product that we're seeing is far from finished. This is Ultra Test, so basically everything can still change, the numbers can change, the value can change, the whole of it is still subject to change. And two, my explaining and understanding why wargaming does something does not automatically mean that I agree with it. Now, I got like all set things running in the background, so you will see tanks driving around and everything, just to be entertaining and just to show you the sets themselves. But onwards to sets themselves. Sets are another controversial part of the update, but unlike with the commanders, I'm actually quite a fan of sets, and I'll explain why. Because there's some big pros to it, and of course also some big cons to it. So I will do my best to explain everything, but also give my own take as to why I actually like it. Like, when you have a tech tree, you have to add new tanks from tier 1 to tier 10, or if you started midway, tier 5 or tier 6 until tier 10. But you need a tank at every level in between in order to actually get to tier 10 eventually. On top of that, there's also like tanks that don't really fit the tech tree that they're in. Like if you have the 183 line, you start with pretty slow, pretty small gunned TDs that are pretty well armored, and then all of a sudden at tier 10 you get a non-armored big derp gun, and that's something that doesn't quite fit it. To me, and this is my personal opinion, I don't think the T30 fits this line either. It's a beauty of the tank, but it's the tank that I love most of the whole line, and it doesn't really fit either E4 or the D28 prototype. It's just very, very different. And there are, of course, more examples of that. And that is one big reason that I like sets more than tech trees. That is not to say that every tank right now is organized into the right set. I know that there's like the AMX-30B for some reason is with the Japanese medium tanks, even though it plays very differently. The phase 1, even though not many people have it, is currently ranked together with the Yo tanks rather than the E5, which fits the playstyle a lot more. So it's not perfect, but that again, it is Ultra Test. There's still a lot of things prone to change, and a lot of sets will need fixing as well. But generally the idea of tanks fitting each other more per playstyle rather than just tank number, in my opinion, works really well and better than tech trees. Now, another thing about sets is that they don't have to have tanks in all the tiers, and this is both a pro and a con. Like, there are sets that will have tiers 1 to 4, and sets that will have tiers 4 to 7, have multiple tier 7s or non-tier 7s, etc. And that the pro of that is that you have more of the playstyle grouping. The con of that is you have less walkthrough ability, let's say. Like if you right now, if you get a tier 1, you have to play the tier 1 and then you get the tier 2 and you steadily build in level. And that is something that is less there with sets. So that is why I feel that that is both a pro and a con. But to me, by far the biggest pro of the set system is that you do not have to drive a tank that you dislike. Basically, any tank in the set grinds for the whole set. And of course, higher level tanks basically grind more XP, but it just means that if you drive a lower level, it just means you have to play a bit more games. But any tank in the set grinds for the whole set. So if, for instance, like with the tech tree, if you love the Emil 1 but you hate the Emil 2, you cannot drive the Emil 1 to get eventually to the Kranwagen. And in this case, you can drive whatever you want in the set in order to get eventually the tank that you want that is further along in the set. And this also counts for collectible tanks and premium tanks. Like if you have either of them that are in a set, you can play those as well and they will grind the whole set. So that for me is a very big thing that I like about sets as opposed to tech trees. However, with the current numbers that we have, grinding a set takes a lot longer than grinding a tech tree. Right now you need like double the XP that you would need in Blitz for a tech tree. But that is one of the things where I feel like this is still Ultra Test, so things are still very prone to change, because honestly, I can't see these numbers holding up. But the fact that you can drive any tank that you like is, for me, at least a definite pro. Now, another thing to note is that as you level up a set, you get access to different kinds of tanks, and that includes premium and collectible tanks. This does not mean that you can get them for credits or silver, as the currency is called in the Reforged update. You will still have to spend gold, and the gold is probably more than it would be if it's in the store, so the difference is mainly that it's available at all times. So you might still just want to wait until it's actually in the store, where it might be cheaper or for money rather than gold, etc. But the tanks are technically available to get at any point. There are a few tanks, however, where you will not be able to get them like that. And in this case, you see that behind the crate, there's another tank. That's the tank, the KV-220T, that you cannot just buy in this case. You can still, if you have it, you can still use it to grind the set, but it is not a tank that you can basically unlock with level. You only can get it in the store or through events or whatever. Basically, depends on the kind of tank, obviously. So I do like the idea of some tanks just being always available to buy if you want it. But again, just to repeat, you have to keep in mind that when it actually comes as an offer in the store, it will probably be cheaper than it would be in the set. Now, another thing to talk about is how sets are actually unlocked, because to unlock a set, you need keys. You get keys through player levels, you can get keys in the store, you can get keys through events, battle passes, etc. From what I've understood, and I say this very carefully, Wargaming's intention is that keys are something that you can get pretty easily, but at the same time not too easily. Like when you first start a game, you will only have an X number of keys and you have to think about which set you want to unlock and grind. This is to avoid basically that people can get everywhere instantly, and that's something that kind of helps us veteran players more. Not so much because we can pretty much get access to everything like instantly, but newer players will not be able to just get tanks that they're really not ready for. Unless, of course, they spend a gazillion money, and gold noobs will always be an issue in and of themselves, but you get the general idea. I do like the idea of just having to think a little bit more before you spend your keys unlocking a set, and just basically see if the kind of set fits you, because every set will have a description that describes the kind of playstyle that is needed. There's also like a whole search function in the set system where you can see, look like, I'm looking for tanks that have this or that characteristic, and then the game will tell you these tanks or these sets might be what you like. Or if you know that you want a certain tank, you can look for the tank and then it will tell you what set it is in, stuff like that. Basically, I made a little bit of footage just to show how that system works. Like there's also nations at the bottom of this if you want it, but you can basically just see what kind of sets you can look for, what sets are still locked, which sets are not unlocked, but you are ready to, basically to unlock sets, all of that, tank names and all of that. It does work quite nicely that way. However, if you just start the game and you have no idea what exactly you're looking for, whether or not you're looking for a specific tank or not, it can be very, very frustrating to look at. So when the set system was first like explained to me, I kind of liked it. I liked the idea of it and everything, but it really looks like Netflix. And that's actually like something that they sort of tailored it after, because nowadays used to sound old, but yeah, nowadays use are used to this kind of scrolling. They're used to seeing icons like this with big blasty titles and everything, and it speaks to nowadays use better. And I'm not sure I like it. I like the pictures of it. I like that every set has its own theme music and everything, and it just looks really, really cool that way. I'm not sure I like it as a browser thing, because if you're just starting and you don't exactly know what you're looking for, this doesn't really tell you anything about the sets themselves. So the set description will be very, very important. And it's not just this bit of it, really. Because if you go to your collection, you see this, and I have no idea what this means. You have like this, basically, from what I've understood, is just like the sets that you've got unlocked, and they're ranked in beginner, advanced, and expert kind of thing. And they tell you what level you're at in them, and you can. I like that you can basically sort them by what did you last play and all of that. But the icons mean nothing to me. It doesn't mean anything as to what is in there. And I think I understand that Wargaming wants us to go there, that we know tanks more by sets than by name, and this is also 10 plus years of being used to tech trees and knowing what nation everything is in. But then you get this kind of look, and it's just really, really confusing to me. But that's also the me that is old and not young anymore. So I'm not a teenage player that is looking into the game for the first time and seeing things like this and going, oh, that is cool. And some of this is stuff that we just need to get used to. Like, eventually we will know all these icons as well as we knew the tech trees beforehand. And even though the gun animation is out of whack here, because obviously the Ferdinand's gun doesn't work like that, I do like the way that the whole of it is animated, and I like that the tanks fit each other more. I don't understand all the sets as they are, also because some sets have very few tanks like that one, and then you get this one, and there's just like so many tanks in there. But overall, I like that you can get the collectible tanks and the premium tanks in the set themselves, if you want them right then, rather than wait for an offer in the store. And that you can play whatever you want in the set in order to progress in that set. So another thing to keep in mind is that with the whole transfer event thing, basically Wargaming has said so far that if you have a vehicle in the set that is tech tree, the set will be unlocked for you. That means that currently any grindable tank in game, if you have that in your garage as we transfer eventually when this goes live months away, then you will have that set unlocked. However, if a set only exists of premium or collectible vehicles, the set will still be locked and you will eventually need to spend keys in order to unlock it. However, as said, if you have the tank in your garage, you can still play it even with the set locked and you will still grind XP in that set. However, if you have a set that has tech tree tanks but you only have premium or collectibles tanks in your garage at the moment of transfer, that means that the set will still be locked. So premiums and collectible tanks do not count for unlocking the sets as we transfer. Now, again, I want to point out that all of this is still very much a work in progress. Not every set is all completed. Not every tank is like completely in the game yet. There's still so much prone to change. But I do like the idea of sets as a whole. I think the pros outweigh the cons here. And I think that the idea of sets, like with the playstyle thing, is more logical than tech trees. But that's my personal opinion. Now, there is, of course, a lot more to cover with sets. Like, there's a lot more sets that I could show you. I've got a whole lot more footage. Obviously, you will be able to check this out yourself in the ultra test, and I think that I'm not going to show everything because there's no really any point to it. Plus, I would just be talking for the sake of talking just to fill up the space here, so I'm not going to do that. However, there is a bit still that is to do with the low tiers that we have right now in Blitz and what happens to them in the Reforged update. I will make a different video about that because it is quite long in its own, so I don't want to really get into that for this because this video is already long enough. So I will end with the same thing that I ended my Commanders video on, and that is literally, I've got this written out and I'm going to repeat it, same as with the disclaimer in every Reforged video that I have. We will see how the ultra test goes and if the feedback from that will change things up again. But just to repeat it again, this is only an ultra test. We are still far from the full product, both production and time-wise. It's not like us testing things this upcoming week means that the update will be released 2 weeks after that or anything like that. So when testing, keep that in mind, and if you want anything to change, make sure that your feedback is constructive and civil. The moment that you start cussing or insulting, there's a good chance it will just be written off and not heard. So while all the frustrations and emotions running high are completely understandable, it is in all of our best interest that the feedback given to Wargaming, both positive and negative, is constructive and civil. So that's it for me for now. I hope you keep the ebuff in mind and we will see what the future brings us together. Bye bye!